Hi, everyone, and welcome to Good Journeys Tarot. I'm Rosemary, and today we're going to be looking at the hashtag Tarot Collector. Now, I almost didn't do this tag because I did a similar tag with questions that some of which are the same, but there were some things in it that I hadn't really thought about that I wanted to share with you. The other reason I hadn't shared it is because I'm not a collector. Like, I'm not looking at like all of the different RWS decks that are out there or anything like that. I try to collect decks that are going to speak directly to me and add something new to my collection, not so much collecting decks that are different versions of the RWS. So the first prompt is your most expensive deck, in which I have shared this before, and I have to move all of my cards to get to it because, of course, it's on the bottom of my deck, right? Stack of decks. And so that is the Tarot Noir, which is a Marseille-based deck. It does have a guidebook, which is entirely in French, so that part's not very helpful to me. It does have beautiful full color images of the cards, and it is a pretty deck. The cards are quite large. Whoops. So just to give you an idea, here is a standard tarot card. It's my Bonestone and Earthflesh, and it does have gilding. It has beautiful backs. It's kind of a little bit of a dark kind of Marseille-looking deck. I do love this deck, and I have read with it a few times while I was learning the Marseille. I have actually seen people uh, trim this, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it because of the gilding. And I think it's okay to have cards that are different sizes and to work with them, whether you work with them all the time or just once in a while. So this was the most expensive at $125. Now, I do have the desire for a couple of decks that are probably going to cost me a lot more than that, but I've not found them. And so I'll talk about that later. My least expensive deck, so there are a bunch of decks that fall into this category of around $15. So like the Crow Tarot, and there's several others. The Radiant Wise Spirit. But I took out the Bianco Nero because, if I'm not mistaken, I actually had some points on my credit card, and I got it for like $10 or $7 or something like that. It's beautiful black and white deck, which is pretty much RWS based. It is a gorgeous deck by Marco Prochetti. And I know that he is working on a new edition of this that I think is in color, but I couldn't swear to it. But I've seen some stuff on Instagram, I think it is, where he's working on some new imagery. And yeah, so it's a gorgeous deck. The backs aren't my favorite. They're not. They are reversible, but there's only some. You know, I don't know. It's pretty, but it's not like my favorite. But I do love this as a black and white deck. It's one of my favorite decks to work with, and also was one of the cheaper ones that I got. And that's primarily because it's in a tuck box, and it just had a little white book. So lots of decks like this out there, even some with two-part boxes like the Crow Tarot that you can sometimes find for $15. Not much at all. The third prompt is the deck other collectors want to steal from your collection. So I actually have two of those. I think one of them will make an appearance later. So we're going to start with the one you just saw, which is the Bonestone. Obviously, a lot of people did not get to order this because it was 3 years ago, I think, that it went on sale as a pre-order, and I mean, it was sold out in no time. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the initial release was doubled. I believe there were supposed to be 500 copies, and then they increased it to 1,000. If I'm remembering correctly, the images are just gorgeous. We all know Anatorian is a great artist and just does great work. And yeah, and it did take a long time to get here, and now, similar to the Spirit Keepers Tarot when it came out and sold out, everyone's looking for it, and so people are selling it for, $800, $1,000 on eBay. I think the cheapest that I've seen one go for is probably 400 or 500. But yeah, this is a gorgeous deck. It was really well done, and I enjoy working with it. I was glad to finally have the images in my hand. I'm not as impressed with the guidebook for it, but this is definitely one of the ones that people would want to take from my deck if they could. 4 is my strangest deck, so that's going to be a Mystic Garbage. I was just in a weird mood one night, and I backed this on Kickstarter, and then the Kickstarter failed, and they put them up on Etsy. The initial run actually was... I don't know how many decks there were. There were only maybe 100 to 300. I don't remember. They have this kind of glittery edging. You'll see this back, which is pretty much reversible, except if you pay close attention, in this very center here is her logo for Junkyard Prince, and that part's not reversible. But when you're looking at a card like this, it's hardly noticeable. Yeah, so this is probably my least favorite card. Okay, I just don't like to see poop. But I do love some of the cards in here, like this card. Oh my gosh, I love that. The reason I purchased this deck was I saw these cards. So it is the Moon, and we'll save that one. There's the Star card, and then she has in here the Sun. Okay, and then what she did was, there's the Sun. When you get to the 3 of Cups, where you normally have 3 people dancing, it's actually those 3 cards. And I thought that was a really neat idea, and I like that. All of them have this rainbow coloration. Some of them are weirder than others. Death is actually a possum, which we routinely see on the side of the road here in the U.S., having been hit by a car. The Empress and Empress are actually genitals for the respective genders, and yeah, it took me a while to make out some of them, and others right away they made sense. That's an interesting one. Lots of skeletons. This one of a pregnant woman and her child, which is the 10 of Wands, which obviously pregnancy can be a struggle for people at times. Lots of things go on during that time period in a person's life. So, the deck other collectors are least likely to have in their collection. So, that's going to be the Goblin Tarot. The reason is there were only 100 copies of this deck. This is box 66 of 100. And I've not actually seen anybody who has this deck online playing with it. I mean, it's all goblins. They're pretty much in a traditional RWS feel. The wands kind of have a wizarding world kind of feel to them with the goblins. There's our Page of Pentacles. So yeah, I liked it. It's hand drawn with pen, and then it's colored with colored pencil. That is the 9 of Swords. Nightmares, yeah. So, but the one thing that has really excited me in this deck was I started working with it, and I love the Wheel of Fortune. Is it was the card that really connected me with the Three of Swords. And I'm going to share this card to you, but if you want to look away, you can. There's actually a depiction of a dead animal in this card. But this was the first time I could relate to the bereavement that is supposed to be in the Three of Swords. Was when I saw this goblin whose dog had been killed. Because I've had pets where I've cried over them when they died and whatnot, but that's the only real true sense of bereavement I really have experienced for myself. That, and it really just connected this card to me in a way that no other deck ever had. I mean, the heart with the three swords in it just doesn't really scream bereavement to me. I mean, I get that it's a image for that. And hi, Stanley. um, but this did speak to me because I have lost other pets. And yeah. The next one is the oldest deck, or deck that you've had the longest. So that would be this one, which is 12 years old. It is the blue box RWS. There's a little guidebook that comes with it, with the rose and lily backs. I love this back, and I was very glad to see it in a colored version on the Los Scarabia decks that have come out recently, the Pamela Coleman Smith RWS, as well as the Radiant Wise Spirit. And I'm looking very hard for a Dirty Pam, the first edition of the Pamela Coleman Smith RWS. So if you see it, let me know. I've had no luck finding it anywhere. I'm willing to spend extra money for it because I think it'll be the perfect version of this deck. This is, a lot of people don't like it because it has kind of a yellowy feel. When I first got it, I liked that kind of sepia look, but then I began seeing other decks as I was collecting and realizing that throwing cards at you, that, it really isn't the best images, but it is the one that I worked with first to get to know the tarot, and has come to mean a lot for me, and I've kept it around as a study deck, as you can see, where I'm learning astrology and whatnot, because it was damaged, and I tried replacing the cards, and I just could not get cards from US games that matched up. They were either larger or smaller than this particular print run. So I said, I'm not going to buy another copy of this. I'm going to get the Centennial. And so that's what I did. So that's my oldest deck at 12 years old. So newest deck. So the newest deck I don't have with me. Hold on one moment. So here it is. This is the Lofts Hollow Tarot, and I had to go grab it because it is the deck of the week, which means I'm pulling my weekly spread and daily cards from it. And this deck came with two sets of 8 and 11. So some of you have probably seen this deck. It's just a beautiful eye image on the back, and on the front, of course, are our images. What they did was they included, if you can see on some of these, you'll see they have the Thoth words on them, but they have a mostly RWS image, which to me, as I've studied the Thoth, it tends to be, like, the keyword tends to be one of the things that is part of that card's energy. But the Thoth is very specific, whereas the RWS lets you be a little more general, I think. And there are a lot more possibilities without that keyword at the bottom. So what they did was they created a card for adjustment. And then they created a card for justice. And I don't know that I'll be able to just grab it, but let's see. Oh, it's not even in here. Sorry. There is justice. And then they also have a strength card. And then they have, instead of lust, there's actually another strength card, which is actually really beautiful and is one of the reasons I've kept with the Thoth order for the deck to help me practice with my Thoth reading, but also because I just thought the images were so pretty. And if I can find it, I'm going to show you the other. Here it is right here. Thought it was beautiful. So this is strength as number 11, whereas this is strength as number 8 in the RWS. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm enjoying working with the deck, and everyone has said this, but we're not sure why they didn't call this Lust, like because in the Thoth it's called Lust, but it is what it is. And I'm enjoying it. The other thing that's a little weird are the courts. The courts in here are prince, princess, king, and queen. So I think that's right. So there's not actually a knight, if I'm remembering correctly. Go here. King, prince, yeah, princess, queen. So I'm not sure the rationale behind that, or and I'm having to study a little bit the courts for this deck and the Thoth. I've just not made heads nor tails of the different court systems yet, so working on that. So that was the newest deck. The next one is the deck that made you want to collect decks in the first place. So this is complicated. I had pulled out a deck to show you, and then the other day when I was doing an Instagram post, I realized I'm wrong. So I initially thought it was the Golden Thread because this was actually the first deck that I added to my collection. So like I had been working with the regular RWS, and I was like, you know what, I want a plastic deck. And so I had gotten it, and you've all probably seen this, or at least a lot of you have. It's by Tina Gong, and it is just beautiful, especially RWS imagery, but it's gold on black. It's just beautiful, and I worked with this deck a lot when I first got it. Like for the first 9 months I had it, it was all I worked with. I took it to work and read with it, and everything because it was plastic and I wasn't worried about ruining the deck. It is gorgeous, but that's not actually what got me started collecting. This is what got me started collecting, and that was the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. Because the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, for the first time, added something to my study of the tarot that was I'd never gotten out of the other RWS decks. And that's because this deck is very esoteric. It actually has some Thoth inspiration as well as RWS inspiration. And it features even yet another system of courts that's different from any other deck that I have, and that's the Angels, which there are 4. There is the... And I have to look because I know there's the Shining Ones, which are the Knights. And then there are the Archangels, which are the Kings, basically. Then you have your Shields, which are... See if I can find a shield. Okay, well, I'm only finding Strongholds, which are your pages, basically. And then your shields. The shields, which I've done a lot of work with, so I probably have them on one of my altars somewhere or something. Well, that's so weird. This is why you don't do videos on spur of the moment, right? Oh, here's one. So there's a shield. And so this has been was a fun deck to work with and to learn new things about and just expand my tarot knowledge. And so it really got me into looking at new decks I could add that would give me something that I'd never seen before. And this is one of those decks where people are still looking for it now. And again, people are putting them on eBay for anywhere from, $500 to $1,400 at one point. And so I'm fortunate to have actually gotten in on it from the start. And it's really what started me down this journey of collecting decks. So my favorite deck from my collection. So There are a lot of different ways to look at this, but in the end, I chose the deck that was out of print that I would probably miss the most, and that is the Ride or Wait deck, which is actually also one very few people are going to have in their um, collections because it was only a few hundred print run. It is on that gorgeous linen cardstock, and it has these beautiful colored images that pretty much follow the RWS. But oh, look at that Four of Swords. That is one of my all-time favorite cards. I just love it. It is gender diverse. It takes some of the esoteric information out and replaces it to everyday things that we understand, but it still keeps some of the things too. This is probably the only pop culture reference, and this is, of course, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg from the United States as Justice. I love the devil is the bartender there. Um, some of them look very much RWS, and some of them, again, they tried to take some of the esoteric information out and replace things like for judgment. Is this obviously this is like a judge making a ruling or something? So I've loved working with this deck. I pull it out almost every day to at least look through the cards and play with them. Yeah, definitely my favorite at the moment. It's just to read with personally um, when I'm not trying to dig deep and learn esoteric stuff. There's some disability diversity there. I think there's another card in here with someone who is um, otherly abled. Yeah, just I love it. So yeah, so this is my response to Moonbaby's um, Tarot Collector hashtag. Look at that sun. No ugly baby there, just a pretty girl. Oh, the Hangman was one of the few cards that was on the Kickstarter campaign, which is one of the reasons that I purchased it. It was just a cool card. I'm not going to show you the whole deck. I'll stop. So yeah, again, yeah. If anybody sees that Dirty Pam for sale somewhere, let me know and I will go check it out. Or if you have one that you're looking to sell to add to my collection, that'll be the one that's missing. Right now, I think I'm probably going to take a hiatus from purchasing decks. I do have a few that are on their way that I kickstarted or crowdfunded earlier in the year. But I think 2021, I'm just going to focus on the decks I have and getting to deep dive into them more. And again, this is Rosemary, and until next time, good journeys.